talking to Jesse, pronouns he, him, calling in from opulescent Ratatouille, who wants to talk about trans people. Jesse, you are on the line with Forrest and Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Happy to have you. So, what did you want to talk about?
Thank you. I wanted to know what your guys' definition of a woman is.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I would say that a woman is a person whose gender identity aligns with the social, behavioral, cultural, and or physical characteristics that they associate with femininity.
A person whose gender what?
A person whose gender identity is aligned with the social, behavioral, cultural, and or physical characteristics that they associate with femininity. And if you want to know what I think a man is, I would just change the word out for masculinity.
Let's see.
And if you want to know the definition of a non-binary person, switch it out for a person whose gender identity does not align with either their perception of masculinity or femininity.
Okay.
What about you?
Um,
What's your definition of a
I guess
woman?
my my definition would be an adult human female, which I'm sure you've heard already.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think that definition is better.
Okay.
Um, the whole I see in a person whose identity is aligned with the social, behavioral, physical characteristics they associate with femininity would be like, let's say, someone who doesn't identify with that. Let's say, like, someone who is a masculine lesbian or something like that. So they don't identify themselves with the social or whatever characteristics that are usually feminine, but they still are
But
a woman.
but that's why I said and or, because they may not exhibit or associate or align themselves with the social characteristics, but they probably do with physical characteristics or maybe cultural characteristics or whatever else, the behaviors that they whatever it may be. The key here is, and I would love to compare and talk about your definition because I think that your definition doesn't work. Um, but
Mm.
at the end of the day, if you and you use he him pronouns, I also do. I'm a cisgender man. I'm assuming you are as well. I guarantee you and I have different perspectives on what masculinity is, and I'm sure that Paul does as well from both of us. Um, and so I can't tell you what it is to be a man because it means something entirely different to me. The cultural, behavioral, social norms for me, in my opinion and my perspective, are vastly different. And yet they are in line with my gender identity. And so if I tried to tell you I'm a man because blah, 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 I would have a hard enough time doing that. I don't know what the fuck that means. But certainly I would say some shit that doesn't resonate with you. And so, and if I were just to pin it down on, well, we're both males, then I would have a lot of questions about what we're actually talking about there and what parts matter and what parts are even able to be, uh, uh, interpreted, or what parts we're able to tell. Pardon me, I'm extremely tired, but like what parts we can tell about each other in that way. But a masculine woman is still a woman as long as she's a woman. I don't know, Paul. Do you have a different definition? Do you have anything else you want to throw in here? Like,
No, I'm. This is all you, but I'm nodding in agreement completely. But you're the biology guy, and so
okay,
you're much. I'm gonna leave this one to you.
okay, man.
I mean, Jesse,
Well, feel free to jump in.
where
Don't let me steamroll.
I will. But Jesse, what what is better about yours? What are we missing? What's happening? Why are we even having this conversation? Were you just are you calling to take a survey, or what were you hoping to achieve here?
No, I just had an interaction with Forrest online about transgenderism, I think. So I figured I'd give a call when I had a chance. But I guess what I gathered from that was it seems that you're kind of trying to say man or woman is a little too subjective to pin it down, and that mine might be overcomplicating it because we might disagree what's masculine, what's feminine or whatever. But I think it's
I
I think the opposite.
I would say
Yeah.
I would say that the what I'm doing, the reason why my definition is the way it is, and the reason why I think that yours doesn't function is because sex and gender are different things. And so, if you were asking me what is the definition of a male, I would have a totally different thing for you. But like, if we're talking about a man, then I can't rely on male because that there while there may be some overlap there, these things are touching. They're not the same thing at all. So for me to try to use one to define the other just wouldn't work. So because gender is a social construct and is necessarily definitionally non-binary, I've got to find a way to make sure that we're identifying what man and woman mean in a way that actually is defining a necessary condition for those states. I like this, and this is where I'm talking about your definition just doesn't work because if you're going to say that a man is a male and a woman is a female, and these are synonymous terms, then I would ask you, what is the necessary condition, the single thing that and maybe it's multiple, I don't know, but like the thing, the necessary thing that all cisgender women and transgender men have, no cisgender men or transgender women have, and is only based on some physical characteristic. What is the necessary condition here?
Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of wanted to address the first part. I think again, I think your definition is a little overcomplicating it and reading too much into it, just because, like you said, sex and gender are two different things, and I can
Hmm.
kind of follow you there. But I would say gender doesn't have to be. I can understand where culture plays into a role, where different cultures have different expectations of a man, but I would simply say gender would be your sex plus age, right? So when you say man, you're thinking of an adult, and you're thinking of a male. So different cultures do have expectations and things of an adult male wherever you go, but at the end of the day, it's still a male, so it's tied
That's
to
not
sex
correct
and
though,
it's
is
an
it? Like it's
adult.
like that. I think you just said something that isn't correct. The expectation
Mhm.
of specific genders is not the same wherever you go. If you go to different countries, there are different
Mhm.
expectations of what those gender norms are. Is that not correct?
Mhm.
And also gender
Yeah,
ages at
yeah,
which that becomes a thing. So if it's just
yeah,
sex
yeah,
plus
sure.
age, then you still have the problem of cultural relativity.
Yeah, cultural relativity does tie in, but at the end of the day, it's the definition. Though different cultures may be like 18, maybe 20, it's still what they consider an adult and a man. And then the
Jesse,
Right.
role,
So
the
then
gender
so
role
then in
might be
your so
different.
then to be clear, in your definition, sex and gender are or what we're talking just about gender here. In your definition as well, gender is largely based on social norms. It isn't a biological construct.
Yes, in a sense, yes, but I think mine is still closer to not only being more simple but more specific than, let's say, a guy who's wearing a skirt walking around the street and just being like, "I'm a woman." You know what I mean?
Right,
Um,
but that doesn't
I
happen.
think, yeah,
That's not a thing.
I think it does
That's
happen.
just a boogeyman that people come up with to try to oversimplify the existence of transgender people. See, what you're doing here is you're accusing me of overcomplicating things when what I'm giving you is
Mhm.
the simplest functional definition. And as far as I can tell, you're accusing me of
I
overcomplicating
think,
things because I'm giving these two terms the respect that they deserve as separate entities. And I'm identifying these things in a way that actually does nail down a necessary condition. But what you're doing is you are oversimplifying these things to the point where you are now denying the identities of people and erasing the existence of people just for like categorical convenience. And I think that's if even if I were to agree with you that my definition is overcomplicated, I think that your sin here is far more egregious than mine. But you didn't answer my question in the first place. If sex and gender are necessarily tied together, you're making a point that they're not exactly synonymous, but they're pretty damn synonymous, then what is the singular necessary condition for being, say, a woman?
Okay. In just 1 second, I want to address a man in a dress or whatever saying I'm a woman does happen. I ran into it myself, so it's not a boogeyman. So you're right that mine
If
can
you're
be
just
a little more narrow and it might exclude people,
saying,
but I'm not excluding their existence. I'm just
are
excluding
you
them
saying that
from
a
the
person
category
was
of a
wearing
man.
are you saying that a person was wearing a Halloween costume and saying I'm dressed as a woman, or are you saying you met a trans woman and didn't accept that she was actually a woman and said you're just a man in a dress claiming something?
Yeah, I met a man in a dress who said he was a woman. I'm like, you're a man, bro.
So you met a transgender person and denied that person their identity is exactly what I just said that you did.
I denied what he wanted to claim to be. Yeah, and that's okay. I'm not denying their
So so
existence.
by the so by the end of this, we'll make sure to address that. But first, I would love for you to actually answer the question that I've asked you now 3 times. What is the necessary condition if you're claiming that these terms are very close to synonymous or at least necessarily interrelated? What is the necessary condition for being a woman? What is the thing that makes somebody a woman that is purely based on physical characteristics that no cisgender men have at all, only cisgender women have, no trans women have, only cis women, only trans men have? What is that thing?
Well, first, I just want to say I wasn't dodging your question. It's just that, you speak and you bring up various points. So there are
Okay,
points
well
that
then
I
this
want
is
to
your
address.
chance to answer it
Um,
directly. So don't dodge it now. Now's your chance. Tell me what the answer is.
and again, I'm not dodging. I'm addressing little things that you slip into the
Would
conversation, like
love
saying I
would love to
deny
hear the
people's
answer.
existence. So, yeah, and I'll give it to you. But just like I let you speak, let me get my point across before you,
Oh
you
my
know what I
glob.
mean? Try to force me, whatever. But anyway, what's the necessary condition? I don't know, man. I don't know if there is a necessary condition. I mean, that's kind of putting words in my mouth. I didn't say there was a necessary condition. I just said that my
No,
definition,
or
I guess, would
didn't
include
say there was
three
a
things:
necessary condition, but you
adult.
are establishing a category which you are saying is like a hard set thing that you can determine. And I'm asking you, how do you determine that?
I'm saying it's my definition is closer and better, a better definition. I'm not saying it's like,
How do you
I don't
know?
know, because I don't want to.
How do you know
How do I know what? How do I know
that
what?
your definition is closer and better?
Because it makes more sense. I mean, just use reason and
It
logic.
makes
An adult
it makes more
human
sense to whom?
female versus a person. To anyone who thinks, just think it through. I don't know. Whoever's listening, think it
So
through. Which definition is better? Someone who thinks they align, whether it's biologically or socially or whatever all you said, with things normally associated with feminism or femininity, all that stuff, which could include someone who just says, well, I'm kind of feminine, so I think I'm a woman. Or is
no, it
it my
doesn't.
definition, an adult human female?
So what's going on here, Jesse? And the reason why this is so immensely disappointing is what I've given you here is my best understanding of this topic based on my education around this topic and actually taking the time to really think about it in accordance with the guidelines and the understanding and the research laid out by experts in this area. And your definition and your understanding that you're giving me is vibes and what seems to just resonate with you as a person. And if you're gonna say that
Do
this
all
is a
experts agree?
situation where some do, I'm sorry,
Do all experts agree with you?
all experts don't agree about anything ever. That's the whole point.
Okay, so then what's the point?
A group of crows is called a murder. A group of ferrets is called a business. A group of scientists is called a disagreement. So what the point here is that
Cool. So
the
then I'm with the
overwhelming
scientists who
majority.
disagree.
Okay, so
Cool.
you're with the creationist biologist, you're with the anti vax doctor, you're with all the other science deniers out there who go against the academic consensus. Because what I'm telling you about sex and gender is literally written in introductory biology textbooks. Basic biology is what I am giving you. And if you disagree with that, okay, that's not my problem. As a scientist, I don't care about the random opinions of some dude who didn't care enough to actually research this. I care more about what experts in my field say and what evidence they bring to the table and whether or not that evidence makes sense. And as someone who actually dug into this, I can tell you the evidence makes a lot more sense than what you're presenting me, which is much more in line with the some person just decided whatever than anything that I'm presenting you. You're giving me these hypotheticals of some guy can just decide that he's a woman, when what's happening here is you're just deciding what science is and what reality is. And that's simply not how thinking works, Jesse.
It is how thinking works. You don't just go with the consensus or whatever, not even consensus, because I bet a lot of scientists don't agree with that. But you don't just go with what quote unquote science tells you, just because, you know what I mean? Like, you're saying what basic biology says, but this is like this is almost like a sociological type of debate. You know what I mean? Like, this is a
You will
person's
never
mental
guess.
identity. It's
You
in
will
the mind.
never guess. You will never guess, Jesse, what kind of things exhibit sociological traits. It's biological things.
So what biologically makes a man in a dress become a woman?
Nothing, because that's not how trans people work. Trans women are women, trans men are men. They're not playing dress up. You're talking about drag. You're
I
confusing
mean,
drag with trans.
everything about him, everything about him was male, except for he
Right.
said he wanted to be
Because
addressed as a woman. And
because
it's not a
male
boogeyman. It's not a made-up scenario.
because as I already explained, Jesse, and would be happy to elaborate on, male and man are different terms with different meaning because sex and gender are different things. If you don't want to take the time to
Okay,
actually
sorry, he
think about the
wasn't just a
necessary
male.
conditions, if you don't want to take the time, Jesse, to
No,
actually think
but
about
this
the
is your
necessary conditions
definition.
for being a man or a woman, I would be happy to explore them with you. What would you say
Okay, well, let's
about
do
a
it then.
situation? I was literally doing it and you just jumped. Oh, whatever. So
Okay,
let's
go ahead.
explore a couple of scenarios here. Do you understand the difference between transgender and intersex people?
What is it?
Do you know what intersex people are?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So this is a great place to start. So we understand what sex is, right? It's a category system that we use to distinguish between, reproductive types within a species. Um, Typically, it's
Biological.
listed
Okay.
binary, right? It's not actually that binary, but whatever. Just for convenience sake, we'll stick with the binary model for the course of the conversation right now, right? The issue is the second you start to try to lump people into these binary categories, you quickly find that sex isn't one single individual thing. Sex is a multivariate system. That means that there's lots of individual pieces going into it. And not a single one of those pieces is solely determinate of the outcome of the system. And also, not a single one of those pieces has only two options. So you've got a system here, this suite of characteristics that we cobble together and call it sex. And it's made up of a bunch of different things, and no one of those things easily, reliably, constantly, 100% of the time tells you what the actual outcome is, and none of them are binary. And so in biomedical
Mm-hmm.
sciences, when we're talking about this stuff, we will commonly distinguish. If we're talking about, let's say, a male, we will distinguish, are we talking about a chromosomal male or a genetic male or an anatomical male or a phenotypic male or a gonadal male or whatever? What part of the sex spectrum are we saying is pointing towards male? What are we actually addressing at this moment? And none of those things mean the same thing as man, right? That's the condition here. So when we talk about intersex people, we're talking about people who have some condition, some developmental situation, whatever it may be. There's a shitload of ways in which their overall sex presentation, their phenotypic and anatomical sex, or chromosomal sex, whatever it may be, any one of these parts of sex doesn't fall easily on one side or the other. Or some of them fall on one side and some of them fall on the other side, or they fall somewhere in the middle. And when you take all of this into account, what you realize is that sex as a total thing is not just two binary categories, it's actually a bimodal distribution. It's two major lumps with a continuum of variation between them. And the only reason we maintain the binary model when we're talking about it is just for categorical convenience. The same reason why we use the word species in biology. That's not a real fucking thing. And the closer you look at it, the more fuzzy and useless it gets. But we use the terminology to make it easier to talk about whatever we're talking about. And when you get bigger and bigger, it means less and less and less. And so, and yet it is somehow more and more important, which is really fun. And so that's what we're talking about with sex here. So now we have a general understanding of what intersex people are. They're people who have sexual characteristics that fall somewhere in between or in both sexual categories. And now when we look at these people, if you're going to say that that sex and gender are necessarily aligned, you now have a problem. Because where I can say transgender and intersex people are different categories, they overlap, but they're different categories definitionally. You now have this issue where you have to decide by whatever metric that this person who has a uterus and a vagina and ovaries and breasts and is just totally anatomically female and also has XY chromosomes, you have to decide what to do with this person and how to refer to this person. And I don't think you're equipped to do that, Jesse. So do you understand the hang up that I'm having here with your rhetoric where it just, from a scientific perspective, it just doesn't work?
So how rare is that condition?
Does it matter?
It does matter because my definition covers 99.9% of the population except for that small person who has chromosomes that are a little different.
So just so you know, first of all, over 99% of all the atoms in the universe are either hydrogen or helium. We don't call the periodic table a binary, right? That just doesn't make any fucking sense. If you're sitting here saying that you clearly know that a man is a male and a woman is a female, and you can make these set, hard, serious categories, if even one person violates that, then you no longer have good categories. And you either need to join my side to say, hey, these categories are pretty fuzzy and they don't always do the right job. They don't always cover everybody. Or you need to join my side and say these categories really need to be reevaluated. Like, you have no way of saying these categories work if there is ever a situation where they don't. But secondly, if we're talking just about that one situation, that's called Swyer syndrome. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I can look it up for you. But I do know that the combined total of all intersex characteristics, by way of, I believe, the I forgot the exact office, the UN. It's a part of the UN, the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, or something like that. It's a weird acronym. Their numbers from the UN is 1.7% of the global population are intersex. Now, fair note, there is some debate over that because there's kind of a war between these two scientists as to whether it's 1.7% or less than 1%. And it really just depends on who they are excluding and who they are including. The general consensus, what my textbook said, what my biomedical training said, and what the UN is backing up as well, is this 1.7% figure. And I just say that for the people in the chat who inevitably are going to hang on that number as if it destroys the debate, when literally it changes nothing about what I'm saying. But going with that number, because it's the one that I know the best and the one that I was trained on, 1.7% of the global population is intersex. And you can look at that number and say, okay, well, 1.7% is nothing. That's tiny, right? Except 1.7% of 8 billion people on this planet is about 136 million people, Jesse. So we're talking about a population of people the size of Russia, the country of Russia. And you're sitting here saying, well, it works for all these other people, so it doesn't matter. You don't get to just ignore the entire population of Russia when you're making any other decision about what humans are. That just doesn't work. It's lazy thinking.
Do they remain uncategorized, or do they ultimately get categorized as male or female?
For convenience sake, generally speaking, they are just referred to as male or female based on their phenotypic presentation. However, like intersex advocates are very adamant about the fact that like they are not a third sex, but they are also wanting representation. They are not wanting to be just lumped and ignored. I guess some people are probably, but they want to be recognized. They want to be noticed. They want to be talked about. They want to be heard. Their voices matter. Their
Okay.
experiences matter. So
So they
if
don't
you'd
have a
like,
problem
I
with being
have
recognized as male or female.
that's
So
literally
my
not what I
my
just said.
categorization works.
No,
No.
Okay. Well,
no, it doesn't. Because what you're doing, Jesse, is you are deciding what they are. You are looking at these people and making a judgment without consulting them and without actually knowing anything about them. And also, you're then tacking on a
no,
gender term, which is even less appropriate.
no. You said they get categorized, right?
No.
I said
Well,
that for
I agree
convenience
with
sake,
whoever categorized them.
I said that for convenience sake, they are usually just categorized as male or female based on phenotype. However, that isn't always accurate because the way that we assign sex in this country, especially, is just by taking a casual glance at a baby's giblets and whatever it looks like, we just go with it, and that's simply not how it works. Take for example, are you familiar with Givadose people?
Mm-mm.
So Givadose, the Givadose
No.
is it's a population in the Dominican Republic. It is a rare intersex condition that is only present in this population. These people are born anatomically female. So this baby is born. You take a look between their legs. There's a vagina, and you say this is a little a girl, a female, whatever. And then about age 12, they just grow a penis because it turns out that they were actually chromosomally male the entire time and they had a 5 alpha reductase deficiency. And so they developed as a female until they hit puberty, and then testosterone levels spiked and they started developing male external genitalia. The term givadoses is a play on words in Spanish for balls at 12, because around age 12, around puberty, they grow balls, they drop them. And so here are these people that then go on to live their lives as men because they are largely like that's generally what happens for them, and they were born and raised as a girl this whole time. So you, Jesse, now you see this little girl playing in the Dominican Republic, and you're like, that's definitely a woman. I know because I decided so. And then she grows a penis. What do you do with that, Jesse? How do you now decide what sex this person actually is and what gender this person actually is?
Well, I wouldn't have called her a woman because a woman again is an adult human female.
You said I
That's the
said
first
girl a
thing.
second ago.
And
I'm pretty sure I said girl.
well, and the other thing is if they well, can they reproduce at once
Does
they
it
hit
matter?
puberty and they become adults?
Does it matter?
Well,
Plenty
yeah.
of
I mean,
cisgender
can they?
and like there are plenty of people who are not intersex that can't reproduce. Are they not male or female
Yeah, but
anymore?
just talking about the well, I'm just talking about the give a dose though, because you brought them up.
Right. If a woman who is cisgender with XX chromosomes and is totally anatomically and phenotypically female, if she cannot have children, is she still a woman? And does that factor into your consideration about her
Hold
sex
up.
or gender at all?
Well, I'm just learning about the give a dose. I want to know if they can reproduce or if they when they hit puberty, do they still have a vagina and a penis, or do they just have a penis?
I'm
Like,
asking.
I'm just trying to learn
You
about
should
them.
look it up. You should look it up. It's really interesting.
This
I'm
is how
asking
I
you why it
inquire. See,
matters
I
for this
don't just
conversation.
why it matters because they probably fall eventually under the label of man or woman, which is an adult human female, and it's
How does
like
reproduction play into that part?
it's
How does
pretty
reproduction
simple
play into that? How does reproduction decide that? Why are you asking about the reproductive capabilities?
because you're talking about intersex and all this and that, and eventually it is biological because biologically we develop to reproduce, and usually
No,
male
we don't.
you develop male or female.
You
Yeah,
don't
we do.
develop to reproduce. You can reproduce if you like, but humans are much more than just baby machines.
But that's the
If a
purpose of
man
life is
doesn't,
to
if
reproduce, self-replication.
no, it is not.
So what is everything alive striving for?
Being alive, typically.
Yeah, but they all
Like,
have a function of reproduction. Bacteria reproduce, trees reproduce, plants reproduce, animals
not
reproduce.
Oh my God. What I'm trying to get across to you is that not everything can reproduce, and that doesn't affect their status as a living being or as a man or a woman or any of those other things. It is redundant. It is irrelevant. It is pointless to this conversation. If you're talking about biology at large, we can have that conversation, but then you're going to be so fucking far afield of what we're talking about here. It's going to be a complete waste of your time. I'm telling you, as someone with training in this area, it is not worth your time to go down that road. It is pointless.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, to me, it's kind of like saying not every human has 10 fingers and toes. But yeah, a human typically has 10 fingers and toes. If they don't, something went wrong.
And
So
you just
we
hit the
usually
nail on the
develop
head,
to
Jesse.
have.
The word, Jesse, you just hit the nail on the head. The word there is
Yeah.
typically. So if you want to say that
Yes,
women
typically.
are if you want to say women are typically females, I would agree with you, because about 1% of the population is
Yeah, and
transgender.
when they're
So
not,
yeah, women are
and when they're no,
typically
this is where I would
anatomically
disagree.
female. Women are
This is where I would
typically
disagree.
chromosomally female, but not always.
Yes,
Women typically have
yes,
XX
and when they're
chromosomes. They
not, it's
don't all
because
of them.
of a physical. Yeah, but when they're not, it's that something went wrong, an abnormality happened. And what I think is happening with transgenderism is that that's an appropriation, or what can happen is it can open the door for an appropriation of these quote unquote intersex people.
So your
So
complaint at this
transgenderism to
moment,
me is a
your
mental.
complaint at this moment is that rather than accepting the academic consensus that sex and gender are different things and not necessarily congruent, something that literally every major medical association in this country accepts, the World Health Organization accepts, that literally basic biology textbooks teach, just rather than accepting that modern biology is correct, you are claiming that transgender people, for some mental reason, are appropriating the identities of people that you literally just learned existed 5 minutes ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about a certain tribe. I understand that people obviously have abnormalities at birth. Yes, maybe I didn't know the term for it, but I did know
You
about
didn't
that.
know
But here's
intersex
my
people
problem
at
with your
all.
definition of. Well, hold on, don't hold on. My problem with your definition of gender is it's more akin to gender identity. Yours is too subjective because with yours it relies on their self identity. So with your definition, I can't tell what anybody is because I would have to know how they identify first.
Let me just ask you a question. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm extremely tired and I'm pounding energy drinks. I'm a little burpy right now. Pardon me for being so gross. Let me ask you a question. Let's associate this to something else for a second, because this is a very, very, very common misunderstanding where we talk about gender as an identity and then, or as identity as a factor in gender. And people say, well, then how do I know anything? You can just self identify, whatever. What I want you to try to understand here, how can you tell whether or not someone is a Republican?
I don't know.
Are, uh, are you a Republican?
No,
What are you? What is your political affiliation?
Christian.
Christianity is not a political party. I'm asking you, what political party do you align yourself with?
Christian. I don't have a
Okay,
political
if we're
party.
gonna be
Both parties can be wrong
no,
and
no,
both parties can be right.
that's fine. No, it's fine. We'll go down the weird route that way. How do you know whether or not somebody is Christian?
They follow Christ, I guess, by their fruit.
Okay, you so fruit. So you're saying that labor, works, what they do, and how they act, that is what defines them as a Christian.
If it's in accordance with their claim of following Christ, yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is that someone who is behaving in such a way that aligns with their understanding of Christianity is a Christian. Right. So then Christianity,
But Christian
the
isn't a
practice of be
biological. Yeah.
I didn't say it was, Jesse, keep up. So Christianity is then a social thing. It is something that someone self-identifies as, and what their practice of Christianity, because there are over 40,000 denominations of Christianity, and there are plenty of them. You said it's all about
Hmm.
their fruits. There are plenty of Christians out there that says that has nothing to do with it. It is only faith that matters, and that acts will not do anything, and fruits don't do
Hmm.
anything. It is only faith. Whatever.
Hmm.
What we agree on is that it is someone's like what they associate with Christianity when they embody those things, those cultural, behavioral, religious
Hmm.
practices, then they are a Christian.
Hmm.
So it is a self-identity thing,
Sure.
right? Here's the thing,
Sure.
because gender is a social construct, it behaves the same way as all other social, or, well, pardon me, I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase. It behaves in a similar way to lots of other social constructs. I almost said all the social constructs, that would have been wrong. It behaves in a similar way to lots of other social constructs, namely that self identification is a factor in all social identification. Politics, religion, lots and lots and lots of things. Anything that it has to do with your identity as a social person engaging with society necessarily hinges on self identity. So, because gender is a social construct, it necessarily includes and hinges on self identification. Now, does that mean we can use it the same way as any other social construct? Which is what I stopped myself about it ago, because I could hear the next question usually is, okay, well, race is a social construct, wealth is a social construct, and I identify as rich or Asian or whatever like that. No, obviously, different social constructs have different rules. But internal identification and who you sense yourself as a person, that is always a factor, just as it is with gender.
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree. You're
Right,
right. There
right.
are different social constructs, and you're trying to align it with some relativist social thing, and I'm saying it's more aligned to biology
I
because,
understand that you disagree with that, but
again,
now
my
that I've
definition
understood,
is better.
I was just addressing the one claim you made and making sure you understood that it still lines up with my definition and with my understanding of this. I'm going to now try to bring this back. Let's go back to this person with Swyer syndrome that I mentioned earlier. So this is a person who has XY chromosomes. They also are anatomically female, and we have plenty of case studies of people with Swyer syndrome getting pregnant and having children. So, do you agree, Jesse, if sex and gender are so uniquely, so intimately related and connected, and that woman is female, do you agree that some women have XY chromosomes, or do you agree that some men can give birth? Because this person is chromosomally male and phenotypically female and able to have children. So, do some men give birth, or do some women have XY chromosomes? Which is it?
So this person is phenotypically female, right? So everything about them on the outside is
A-
female.
Anatomically and phenotypically. Yes, they have
Okay,
female
and they can
reproductive
give birth,
organs.
right?
They look female, and they can get pregnant and have children. And they also have XY chromosomes.
So it seems like they're a female.
Okay, so then you would say that some women have XY chromosomes, right?
Sure, and I'm sure it's an abnormality, like I said.
It genuinely doesn't matter, because we're not talking about normality or anything. We're talking about categorization here. So we agree that some women have
Yeah, and I'm
XY
trying to
chromosomes.
categorize into.
What what about a
Uh,
uterus? What about a uterus? Is that a female thing or a male thing? Or do you agree that some men have uteruses?
do you agree that it's case by case?
Nope.
See, my definition, it's ultimately it aligns with whether your body is trying to develop to reproduce by producing sperm or whatever, or if your body's trying to develop by reproducing by having eggs. You
Okay,
see?
so then what do you
So
do
yes,
with
some
someone
stuff
who has
happens and it gets in the.
oh, Jesse. So then if that's what we're
Mhm.
going with, then what do you do
Mhm.
with someone who has street gonads, which means they don't have either ovaries or testes?
Well, then you look at the rest. How was their body trying to develop?
So what you're talking about
What
here
traits
is
do they
not
have more?
actually So let's say they have also Mullerian agenesis. So they don't have any female reproductive parts at all, and they also don't have any, gonads, and say they don't have a penis either. They're just a fucking Ken doll down there. What do we do with this person?
Can you name this person? Give me a case of this person.
I'm just trying to find where your limits are, dude, because my what I'm giving you is consistent with biological and social sciences. And you're giving me
It's
your
not.
opinion. And I'm trying to
It's not
find where
consistent.
your
That's what I'm trying
actual
to say.
line is. I'm trying to find where your actual
Bro,
line
you're
is.
not consistent. You're making up scenarios
not
that you can't even name a case of. I'm telling you stuff I've ran into personally that I know other people run into. You're saying a person whose
Right,
gender identity is aligned with social constructs they associate with
Jesse.
femininity. What is femininity? It's based on female. So if we can't define
Jesse,
female,
you're
we can't
giving
define
me-
anything, and it's all
You're
relative
giving
bullshit.
me, Jesse, I've given you case studies and situations that actually do exist. You're giving me your anecdotal evidence of things you've experienced.
What's the case study?
Jesse,
What's the case study?
in science, the plural of anecdote is bullshit. So, like, I'm sorry that you've met some
No, it's
people
not.
and decided that you know more than like actual scientists in this area. But that's simply not how this actually works. Just
You
out
can
of
call it
curiosity, and this
anecdotal,
is
but
not
it's called
to.
real life. I'm walking around in the real world.
That's the
If that's
definition
anecdotal
of the
to you,
term,
then
Jesse.
so be it.
That's the definition
What,
of the
real life
term, is
experience?
you
Okay,
going out and
wow.
experiencing some things and writing down that this is just what I experienced today and not actually doing proper data collection. That is just anecdotal evidence.
Well,
What you're
let's
giving
see,
me
bro.
today is anecdotes.
And yours
So
is
what I
denying
want to
that there's
know,
people out there like that.
this is
Yours is denying it.
what what have I denied?
Bro, you're
I've
denying
denied that you're
that
educated
people
in this
exist like
area.
that. What are you talking about?
Like what?
Yeah, because your definition sucks. So
What have I
again,
denied?
a person whose gender identity, bro, when I brought up that there's men in dresses who are like, I'm a woman, you denied that happens.
I denied that it is
You
as
dismissed it. You played it off as some
simplistic and
boogeyman.
silly.
You used the word boogeyman.
I denied. Yes, I used the word boogeyman because what you did is just completely downplayed and oversimplified an issue that you have no fucking comprehension of as the boogeyman that is presented on Fox News and Newsmax as some random mentally insane person dressing up like Klinger from MASH. It's not, that's not real. That's not what actually happens. And that is not what the vast majority of biologists, psychologists, and sociologists actually have determined about this. Again, actual scientists working in these fields are on a completely different side than you, and you don't have any data to go against them. You don't even know what they claim. You didn't know half of the words in this conversation coming into it. All you have is vibes and anecdotes. That's not science. That's not thinking. That's intellectual laziness and patent arrogance.
No, laziness is just going with what quote unquote science tells you. That's laziness. Thinking about what you've experienced in real life and questioning the narrative.
I actually appreciate that. I actually appreciate that statement, Jesse, because that actually is the entire point that I make whenever I talk about this stuff, is that transphobes are no different than any other science denier. It's the exact same narrative as flat earthers.
So.
I absolutely am, because the things you're saying, Jesse, if I were to, Jesse, I need you to shut the fuck up and actually listen to what I'm telling you, because you might learn something. What you're saying right now, if you just take the word gender out of it, I think for a living. If you just take the word gender out of what you're saying and say the exact same things with the exact same objections that you're bringing here, it would be indistinguishable from the arguments of anti-vaxxers, flat earthers, creationists, and every other kind of science denier. Whereas if you look at the actual science here, it's actually data driven. It's actually got statistical merit. It's actually backed up by the best minds in this area. So you are sitting here on the, I don't know what your biology training is. I'm going to finish what I'm saying first. You are sitting here, and I don't know what your biology training is, but you are sitting here saying that all the best doctors and scientists in the world are all wrong. Every professional organization in biology, in medicine, not just in this country, but on a global scale, don't know something that you know just from your personal experiences walking around and meeting what you call men in dresses. That is arrogance and stupidity, Jesse. That's not scientific thinking. And when you back up your claims by saying, well, I don't just believe what science says, then yes, that lumps you in. Your statement, not mine, that statement lumps you in as a science denier who is just going off of their feelings rather than actual facts and evidence. Now you may ask me your question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just feel like, first of all, you make a lot of assumptions, but here's my question.
That's hilarious
Does
coming from
science
you.
get things wrong? Does science get things
Your
wrong?
entire argument is assumptions.
Does science get things wrong?
Sometimes, sure, that's how it progresses. How do we know when science gets things wrong?
Does science change? Does science change? Does science change?
Well, you asked me a question. I'm asking you one back now. How do we know when science gets things wrong?
Well, hold on. I let you talk for a while, so I just want to know, does science change?
I answered your question. I'm now asking you a question in return. How do you know when science gets things wrong?
Okay.
And then I'm going to answer your next question, and then I'm going to ask you another one.
You're basically...
So you're not going to answer
so
that question.
You're basically saying...
Because you don't know.
Yeah, I like how you went on a long spiel, a long rant. I asked you one question, and now I have to answer your question so you can go on a long rant again.
Not going to go on a long rant. I want you to answer the question so that I can then answer your question, and then you can answer another one of mine. So yes, science has gotten things wrong in the past.
You don't need to answer.
And now I'm asking. I'm asking you, how do you know that science gets things wrong? And then I'm going to answer whether or not science changes. And then I'm going to ask you another question. How do you know that science has gotten things wrong?
I don't know. I guess we've probably found out through various different ways. Like, I don't know.
Ways?
How did we find out? I don't know. What do you want? You want me to say through science, right?
That is the answer. Better science came along and proved us wrong. Okay. Now, your other question was, does science change?
Better science come along? Hold up. You just asked me, and I answered your question. Now, can better science come along, and we can find out that your definition of gender isn't as adequate?
Absolutely. Now, I will ask you.
Okay, so then why are you calling me a science denier, a flat earther, all this other stuff, just because I'm saying that science might have it wrong?
I'm going to tell you right now, but you have to answer this question. How would I know? What would be the thing that causes me to realize that my current position is wrong? What would cause science to change on this issue?
Honestly, it could even be just people realizing that that's a bad definition. And then scientists going back.
How do they realize?
Like, oh, actually, we discovered.
How do they realize this?
Through thinking, through realizing that your definition...
So you think that scientists...
realizing that this definition is almost like circular. This definition
so you
is
think
almost
that
circular.
You think that scientists just sit around and just think and go, you know what, I'm going to believe this today? Or is there something external to the scientist that drives their opinion?
Well, can I ask you, what branch of science came up with gender, with the definition of gender? What branch of science came up with that?
I'm waiting for your answer of my question first. Is there something external to the scientist that drives their decision about whether or not they think they're right?
Yeah, sometimes there is. Yeah, sometimes even political.
Every time. If they're a good scientist, if they are a real scientist, every time there is one thing that is external to them that drives their knowledge about whether or not they're right or wrong and whether or not science changes. It's the one word that you haven't used in this conversation.
What's that?
Evidence. We need evidence. We need data. We need something to actually go off of. We don't just decide what we believe like you do. So right now, we had the situation.
Decide I'm a woman. You guys don't do that.
We had
like
a situation.
That they're a woman.
I need you to try to keep up because you're going back to the same lazy talking points. They didn't work before. They're not going to work now. For a long time, we thought in biology that sex and gender were the same thing. They were synonymous terms. And then, about 100 years ago, new evidence started mounting showing that actually they were different and that neither one was a binary. And for the past 100 years, almost since the 1930s, we've been learning more and more and more about this. We lost a lot of data in a way that you won't like being associated. But we lost a lot of data and we're still gaining that data back up. But we are still every
Mhm.
single day learning more about this. And just like with evolution, just like with the shape of the earth, we used to think one way, but the vast preponderance of evidence and better modern science is all now pointing in this other way, which caused scientists to change their mind. Now, here's the thing. Yes, of course, science could change again. It has in the past, it probably will in the future about lots and lots of different things. The thing that allows you to decide that, to actually change your mind, is evidence. If you change your mind without evidence, then you are a science denier. That is still fitting into that box. You are still playing into the same bullshit strategy that didn't get you anywhere last time, won't get you any this time, and it still lumps you in with every flat earther and anti vaxxer.
Yeah, and I think my definition is better supported by evidence.
Better by what
Do you-
criteria,
Adult,
Jesse?
that's
No,
someone who's hit.
Jesse, better
I'll
by
tell
what
you right now,
criteria?
adult. The criteria. Okay, let me tell you though.
Because
So
it
adult.
doesn't apply
You
to
can
more
all tell what an
people.
adult is. Someone who's past. Mhm.
No, you're talking about
Adult.
vibes again. You're just saying
Yep.
the better to
No,
you means
adult
that
is
you
based
can
on vibes.
intuitively.
We can't define adult.
No,
We can't define
oh,
adult.
if you,
Can you?
are you?
Give me your definition of
Can
adult.
you?
See, you guys are on this relative bullshit where we can't even define adult.
I didn't
What's
say
the
I couldn't.
definition
I
of
asked you
adult?
if you could.
Yeah. Let's see. Adult, someone past 18 in America, right? But it's usually associated biologically with someone who's past puberty, right?
That's a long and complicated definition. You accuse me of overcomplicating things. My goodness. Someone over 18 in America, but
You do.
usually associated with past puberty.
Yeah. A fully developed person, right? And again,
Just out of curiosity, I did
room
want to
for
ask this
culture.
earlier. I did want to ask this earlier. Do you have, Jesse, any training in biology, medicine, psychology, sociology, or any other kind of science?
No, I don't have training in science.
Okay. So,
Does
just
that
out of
mean I can't have an
curiosity.
opinion?
No, I didn't say that at all. Just out of curiosity, do you
Okay.
believe that the earth is round?
Sure.
Okay. If someone came up to you with no training in science at all and told you, I believe the earth is flat, and asked you if you've ever checked, if you've ever gone to space, if you've ever been around the whole earth, or anything like that, what would you tell that person?
No, I haven't been around the earth. I haven't been to outer space.
Okay. So if this person told you science has been wrong before, scientists used to think the earth was flat, and now they've changed their mind, they'll probably change it back. And I think that's how it is. I disagree with the majority of scientists. I believe with the small proportion of scientists who believe that the earth is flat, that's who I'm on the side of. And you haven't checked it. You haven't run the numbers, and I
Mhm.
don't have to either. What would you think of that person? Would you think that person is engaging honestly and intellectually in this conversation?
I don't know, man. I'd just be like, I don't know. You probably have to tell me your reasons for thinking it, because I damn sure don't know whether the earth is round or flat. I just believe what I'm being told.
Oh, so you don't know the shape of the earth and you're just believing what scientists tell you? The thing that you
Yeah.
accused me of doing earlier?
Is it okay if I believe it, or do I have to like have some extreme opinion, quote unquote extreme? Because in this case, it's not that extreme every time. It's okay. Like I can't
It,
research
what
every
makes
single thing.
what
But
makes it not extreme?
transgenderism
What
is
makes it not
is
extreme?
Hold on,
Wait,
hold on.
Jesse, what makes it not extreme? That's a really
Yeah,
important thing you just said. What makes it not extreme to assume that the
it
earth is
seems
round?
plausible. That it seems plausible.
So plausibility, but a
But a
flat
man
earther
in a
would say
dress
that a
being a
flat earth
woman
is
does
very
not seem
plausible.
plausible.
No, don't. I'm begging you
A
to
man in a
try to
dress saying
focus
he's a
here.
woman
Don't,
does not seem
Jesse,
plausible.
Jesse, Quit dodging to your comfort zone.
I'm
Focus
bringing
on
it
what we're
back to
saying
the
here.
topic. I'm bringing it
Quit
back to the
dodging to your
topic. Yeah,
comfort
I'm
zone.
focusing on
Focus
the
on the
topic.
train of thought. Focus on the train of thought. What
I'm
makes it
defining gender. I
plausible?
am.
What makes it plausible?
I'm staying
Because
on
to a flat
topic.
earther, the flat earth is plausible. So how is plausibility the criteria to say it's not extreme? That would mean that the flat earther isn't extreme either.
I don't know, because the moon looks
Why
like
is
it's
it not?
spherical, so it would make sense that the Earth is spherical.
Yeah, but the flat earthers believe in a spherical noon too. They say that it orbits
Okay, what's
around the
that got to do
disk
with
in a
me?
circle. I'm asking you, why
Okay,
is it not an extreme position for you to just assume, based on what the majority of scientists who study this shit say, but in this other situation with gender, now all of a sudden it's your personal opinion that actually is dominant here, and the majority of scientists you are willing to ignore? Why is it that if you don't know what shape the earth is,
because
you think it's okay to just listen to what scientists say about it? And I bet you anything, you haven't done the numbers on plate tectonics, you haven't done the number on cells, you haven't done the numbers on germs, you haven't done the numbers on atoms, you haven't done the numbers on gravity, you don't have any training in any of this shit. So all of these theories are all just things scientists are telling you, and you're taking their word for it. So why don't you do the same thing when the
yeah, because
vast preponderance of biologists all agree on this issue?
I can't do I literally can't do the numbers on everything. But the
You haven't done the
implications
numbers
of
on sex and gender
transgenderism in your
either.
definition,
You haven't
damn,
done the
dude, you cut
numbers on
me off
sex
a
and
lot.
gender either.
The implications of sex and gender are different than that of someone thinking the Earth is flat. Because there's not
No, they're
flat
not.
Earth flags all over the Earth. There's not like
I mean,
there's
they are different, but they're
there's
no
like
less spectacular.
flags, right? But there's like transgender flags in the school, in the workplace. This ideology is
Do you know
trying
why?
to become very pervasive when
Do you know why?
because it's being pushed. Because it's being pushed.
Because there are transgender people who work in schools and other workplaces, and they would like to be represented and seen and heard and not ignored and marginalized and oppressed. And so we're showing a little bit of pride for them, letting them know that they belong just like everybody else. Same way that we do for lots of other historically marginalized groups. Thing is, Jesse, we're now in almost an hour into this
Okay.
call. And for this entire hour, I have given you the overwhelming consensus of what scientists say, what I learned while earning my degrees in biology, what every professor and university and textbook that I've ever been trained with has all advocated for and taught me, what the World Health Organization says, what the American Medical Association says, what the American Psychiatric Association says, what the Endocrine Society says, what all sociologists say, what all anthropologists say, what every scientist who even touches this is taught and understands by the evidence that we actually gather, the data we actually run, what we actually know about sex and gender from a scientific perspective. And for 57 minutes, you have given me your personal beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and opinions. I'm sorry, we're not on the same fucking playing field, dude. And if you want to crawl down
Okay.
off of that high horse a little bit and actually be humble, you may actually learn something. Learning starts with humility. And I encourage you to
Okay.
try it out sometime. But with
Can
that,
I get
we're
one
going to move
last
on to the
word?
next call.
Can I get one
Is
last
it going to
word?
be something fucking stupid?
Can I get a last word? It's just gonna go right back, real quick to wrap this up to the beginning.
Is it just going to be your feelings?
No,
It's not going to be your feelings. It's going to be an actual, like, serious, interesting thing that really means something, not just what you believe personally.
no, it's not my own feelings. It's just a statement.
Great. What's your last word then?
All right. You define woman as a person whose gender identity is aligned with the social whatever they associate with femininity. Look up femininity. Qualities or attributes regarded as characteristics of women or girls. So it's a circular reasoning. Thank you.
Okay, if that's what you think, your definition of woman was an adult human female, and then you would have to say that females are women. So your definition is circular. What are we doing? If you had brought that up earlier, we might have been able to actually engage with it. Because there's a reason why what you just said makes no sense, and it would have been a fun conversation, but looks like you hung up. Shame. Try thinking sometime, Jesse. It's a fun time.
Might be a shame, but I actually had my finger on that drop button just in case that last sentence was going to be going.
Oh yeah, no, me too. Me
Yeah.
too. I was
Yeah.
I was 100% waiting for him to drop a slur. Yeah, like that. I have no problem if somebody wants to disagree with what every fucking scientist in the world is saying. Have a reason. Don't. Well, I just feel like it, and I saw this person, and I was an asshole to them, and that means everybody else should be too. The anecdote he has is I saw a transgender person and I misgendered them. That was
Right.
the anecdote.
Yeah. That was it. I think the big disconnect there was actually in the word better. He said my definition is better than yours.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, that's why I actually wanted to get to, because I think what to him meant better was that he can personally intuit it quicker. That's what
Yep.
made it better. Not that it applied to more
Yep.
people, because clearly he didn't care if it applied to more people. It was just more that me personally, Jesse, walking around in the world, need a heuristic, and your
Yep.
heuristic is too much. Like, so if that's his definition of better, then he's right. Like, it's okay. Good for you.
It's easier if you don't think at all. But
Yeah.
also give it a generation when this is a lot more normalized. The same way, something that we could have talked about if Jesse had been interested in actually exploring this. Like, what about homosexuality? There was a
Right.
time not too long ago when homosexuality was considered a mental illness. And then suddenly, because science changed, because we got better evidence and reevaluated it, millions of people were cured of a disease they didn't have. You know what I mean? And so, like, if we're going to explore that, how do you know someone's gay? It's self-identified. Some gay people don't
Yep.
ever act gay. They don't act on this. They don't do anything. You only know by what they tell you, right? We could have gotten into the fact that trans people actually have like activation patterns in their brains that align with their gender identities. You can put them in a fucking brain scanner, and there's this really cool study that I loved, that you show them a picture of their body and have a computer image morph it to be more masculine or more feminine. And cisgender people, the same areas of the cisgender person's brain watching their body morph towards their gender, towards their sex assigned at birth, same area in a transgender person when their body morphs away from their sex assigned at birth.
Interesting.
When it shows what they want to see, what they believe, what they feel, like that's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And like, we could have talked about that. We could have talked about phantom pain. When you lose a limb, you have an amputee and they can feel that limb there, that
Right.
phantom pain. Some trans people have been shown to have phantom pain for body parts that are aligned to another sex that they've never had. They feel phantom boobs and phantom hips and phantom penis and all sorts of stuff. These things happen. There's really, really cool science here that we could have dug into if Jesse could have just crawled down out of his own ass and said, maybe my limited experience as someone who has never been trained in any science whatsoever isn't good enough to make a broad, sweeping statement about 8 billion people. But like, fuck, man, that's what I'm talking about. If I sat here on this show and said, listen, this is all new science, and it wasn't around however many years ago, and that the universities are all in on it, they're all corrupt, and the professors only say this because they want to keep their job, they have to push the narrative, and this is all woke liberal stuff that's being pushed on us, and that at the end of the day, it's an agenda, it's not real science, I would be talking about vaccines. And you would think I was talking about fucking trans people, because that's all the same shit he said, because it's all science denial. It's all the same thing. It's so fucking lazy.